You're gonna fuck this up like everything else, aren't you? Tonight, on Days of Our Steelers, the Black and Gold Brigade finds more ways to play down to their competition and distract themselves from the main prize of a Super Bowl ring. Big Ben develops another paradox after threatening to retire last season, by boasting he will play at least 5 more years. The diva Antonio Brown openly criticizes the media for not giving him any privacy and nitpicking everything, and then demands to be the center of attention by entering camp via private helicopter. Le'Veon Bell finally begins his round 2 of contract holdouts, once again rejecting a healthy salary and being behind a line for cringeworthy rap tracks and slapping asses at strip clubs. In what ways will the trauma and lack of focus on the game unfold this time? How will the team pretend that all is well as the defense unravels around them? All this and more coming this season on Days of Our Steelers. This town sold its soul for the World Series, I swear to God. This week, on Days of Our Steelers, the Le'Veon Bell saga takes a sharp twist from the expected outcome. Many on the team believed that he would be back on Labor Day, yet practice passed without a certain running back showing up. Later, the Hernandez defector Marquise Pouncey telepathically predicted that he would be at practice on Wednesday because of contact with the dead. The spiritual realm lied to him as Le'Veon was nowhere to be found. The entirety of the offensive line is rightfully angry at this revelation and proceeds to verbally assault him and his character. Meanwhile, Antonio Brown channels his inner Rodney King and wishes everyone would just get along. As the missing Bell is off rapping about how he feels worthy of payment to a Swiss bank account, the Steelers trek to their yearly holiday. A matchup against the Browns in Cleveland. A usually wonderful time featuring dominance and destroying Cleveland spirits was marred by ineptitude. The Black and Gold Brigade played hideously down to their competition on a miserable day, with weather matching the mood of Browns fans most weeks. Thank God for James Conner and his awful haircut. In one of the most embarrassing displays of football since Monsoon Day against Miami, the Steelers committed 6 turnovers, 5 of them by Captain Fat Fuck. Despite this, the Browns once again browned on a repeated basis, yet the Steelers failed to capitalize, resulting in a deeply embarrassing tie. Cleveland's losing streak is over, but the winless streak continues on. The city's water supply will not be open to the Browns faithful. As angry Yinzers blow up the phone on local sports radio, we can safely conclude another episode of Days of Our Steelers.
They're both losers! Losers!
After what's How do you lose to Blaine Gabbert? This week, on Days of Our Steelers, the diva struts his peacock feathers against the evil media. This time, an ESPN reporter penned a profile of Antonio Brown that didn't fillet him and his glory at every turn. Brown responds to this unbiased reporting the way most thick-skinned people do, by threatening physical violence against them on Twitter. Little does he know that whatever goes on the internet stays there and is forced to apologize for being caught in the act. Mike Tomlin, the great leader that he is, shits his pants and does nothing about it. Meanwhile, another week passes as Le'Veon Bell remains MIA from the team. Bell is coping with his absence by partying it up on South Beach. Truly a man with his priorities in order. As the Steelers play Kansas City at home, they chose to pay tribute to Le'Veon by not showing up until the second quarter. Despite allowing the Chiefs to go full read in 1 quarter, it's not enough. The team defense is absolutely atrocious as Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs treat them like wet cardboard. Too bad they're too busy being cocky as none of them can make a tackle. The diva, as always, makes himself the center of attention by bitching on the sidelines because he isn't getting the ball as the Steelers are humiliated once again. The remainder of the league laughs as they await another episode of Days of Our Steelers. It's a tough time to have grown up with the Steelers. Years of cock-teasing and being unable to beat New England have taken its toll. The organization is burning to the ground as the inmates are running the asylum. Everything I've been complaining about isn't just reality. It's even worse than I fathomed. The Steelers are imploding and there is only one thing I can count on. Yes, it's nothing but SeatGeek. I've been trying to enjoy nights out at the ballpark before the baseball season ended, and this app helped me to get great tickets at a bargain price. There's no drama involved. I look for games, they sort tickets from red to green on a 1 to 100 scale, I get a view from where I may be sitting, I buy the tickets securely, I scan myself into the stadium on the app. Simple, effective, hassle-free. I know it seems like I'm shilling, but I honestly wouldn't keep doing this if I didn't approve of the product. You may be skeptical, but let me help you out. Use the code word TREE in the link below and save $20 off of your first ticket purchase. I can only thank SeatGeek because this is going to be a long football year. I already have a headache. This week, on a very special episode of Days of Our Steelers, the fallout from the Chiefs game is so widespread that we had to split this segment from Sports Ball and make it into its own video. The crusade against all things discipline begins with the underachieving linebacker Bud Dupree being chirped at by a fan wondering why he keeps performing magic and disappearing on the field. Dupree unleashes his inner 12-year-old and says that he's with his girl. Little did we all know that during their hookup, the girl role-played as a quarterback and Bud couldn't get anywhere near her. Refusing to be outshined by his players after a sideline tantrum, Antonio Brown chooses to respond to his own critic in the form of a former PR representative of the Steelers. He said that he was nothing without Big Ben. He carried AB to his contract and reputation. Total blasphemy in his eyes. The living version of Narcissus chooses the high road this time and tweets to the man, "Trade me. Let's find out." As the world explodes in a sea of arrogance and short-sightedness, AB reinforces his work ethic and drive by no showing practice the very same day. Now the panic really starts setting in. Coach Tomlin once again covers his ears and refuses to comment on Brown's antics. The diva eventually returns to practice the next day, only to be given a light punishment from the team. He will not be benched for the next game, just a small spanking and a few bucks in terms of fines. What does AB do after this regard? Flip out on the media yet again. His actions are the result of those dang dirty sports pundits who scar his wonderful name. Just like Stormy Daniels, whom is caught up in her own web of controversy as she alleges an affair between her and Donald Trump. During this unholy tryst, Trump had a right hand at his side, Captain Fatfuck. He was chosen to personally escort her back to her hotel room, and maybe get some sloppy seconds as well. Daniels alleges that Ben wanted a goodnight kiss, i.e. tap that ass like an oil reserve. Stormy refused and went into her room as Big Ben awkwardly sat there and knocked on the door for a few minutes. He should have tried to evade the pocket a few times, then throw deep to an open wide receiver. Too bad he would have overthrown him by 15 yards. Thus leads to our prodigal son in this drama, Le'Veon Bell. Bell is once again away from the team for the personal sabbatical of relaxing and barely lifting a finger in Miami. The Steelers have all but thrown their hands in the air and removed him from the active roster, but that doesn't stop Le'Veon from crying poor. "Just pay me," he cries from his 5-figure jet ski. He needs to be compensated fairly. He says this as he has pissed away more money in the last few weeks than most of us will make in the next decade. This hasn't stopped Bell from his true passion in life: terrible rapping. Instead of dropping defenders with brilliant moves, he's dropping those sick beats and threw a party for his newest DP. Steelers fans cringe as most music fans cringe at his so-called music. The Steelers must have cringed too, as they are actively shopping Le'Veon for what will probably be a few terrible towels. Yes, even as Mike Tomlin sits and wonders where the fuck he went wrong, the three-ring circus has arrived in the Steel City. Steelers legend Hines Ward simply puts his hands over his face in disgust and realizes this isn't the team he retired from. Perhaps we can call it karma for their arrogance, or just years of neglecting to treat the cancer as it metastasizes into a wide-scale infection. The law will be laid down, the whips will be cracking, and the fear of God will be put into the hearts of every man in that locker room. This renaissance will begin against the hotshot Buccaneers, led by a man whom the Steelers know well in Ryan Fitzpatrick. The Steelers proceeded to remove the curtain behind the imposter and realize that this is, yes, Fitzception. The Buccaneers proceeded to walk themselves off the plank on drive after drive with a combination of self-inflicted wounds and ref balls. To try and atone for these sins, Chris Conti offered himself as sacrifice to a vengeful stiff arm courtesy of Vance McDonald. He is currently wanted for third-degree murder in Florida. Even as the Steelers were as undisciplined as they were off the field, they coasted to a strong lead by halftime. Despite the so-called cruise control, the Steelers proceeded to let the foot off the gas and turtle. The result was Tampa Bay lining up their ships next to the trauma-laden Steelers port as they nearly blow a 20-point lead. Despite all attempts from the defense to reinforce that they are indeed terrible, Pittsburgh escapes with a lucky victory. Regardless of the media narrative changing, this win proceeds to leave the Pittsburgh faithful with more questions than answers. Does this team have any sort of self-control? Can this defense even stop a light breeze? Will they be relying on Captain Fatfuck to bail them out of every situation? Or will he have to force passes to the diva so he can shut the hell up? As I fear that this season is peaking far too early, it's time to conclude another episode of Days of Our Steelers. Hope to God I never have to split this off again. This week, on Days of Our Steelers. We tried our damn hardest to put this into sports ball, but they had to make it too juicy to combine once again. The story begins after last week's near snagging of defeat from the Buccaneers, as Captain Fatfuck suffers allegations of diving on a certain roughing the passer call. Knowing the jig is up, Big Ben admits that, unsurprisingly, he imitated Neymar on the football field. Perhaps he learned such technique from the rape allegations, who knows? Despite his diving and off-sync throws downfield, the real star this week is Le'Veon Bell. He's like Moses, except instead of 40 years in the desert, he's partying it up in Miami. Let my payment flow, his eternal cry shall be. Former Steelers linebacker James Harrison knows of his plight and has some sound advice for him. Show up and sign the tender as late as possible, then fake injuries to not be forced to carry the ball 30 times a game. Of course, who couldn't trust the wisdom of James Harrison of all people? Mark Madden couldn't. He took a break from eating Yinzer adoration lathered with hot sauce to rightfully call him an asshole. James Harrison calls an audible from the Antonio Brown playbook. He threatens violence against the radio host. Mike Mitchell, not knowing when to shut the fuck up, chirps in from the sidelines about the so-called haters that ran him onto the unemployment line. The football game taking place is one of critical importance to the Black and Gold Brigade. It's against their hated rival, the Baltimore Ravens, at home. Appearances need to be kept. The Ravens are thinking they are hot shots. They need to be put back in their place. The Steelers flex their muscles, eat their spinach, and promptly shit themselves early as they fall behind 14-0. Pittsburgh was shown mercy as the Ravens made several key mistakes that prevented them from running up the score. The Steelers even tied up the game. Yinzers everywhere were preparing for a night of lotion and Kleenex tissues. The Ravens were ready to die. And then the offense proceeded to do nothing. Who knew that calling a one-dimensional game with no running plays would make a team predictable? It also doesn't help that nobody in the passing game is in sync. The rest of the NFL got to witness a clinic on how to stop this offense. You sprinkle Old Bay all over the field and pelt them with soft-shell crabs. 47 yards of total offense. That's all that was mustered in the second half. The defense was once again reminiscent of a landfill. Shit everywhere. The Ravens' offense imposed their will on the tattered curtain. Not even Renegade can allow the D to do anything of note.
Like seriously, how the fuck does nobody on this defense know how to make a fucking tackle? How many first and second round picks have we used on these scrubs over the past few years? Can we somehow not allow them to gain 4 or 5 yards after first contact? This is one of the worst defenses I've personally seen this team have. How the fuck is everyone on the team pretending this shit is fine? This is a fucking disgrace.
Excuse me, I slipped out of character. The final score of this affair does not tell the true story here. The game was a total embarrassment for the Steelers. Absolute domination by a once inferior division rival. Baltimore themselves weren't happy with their offensive output, as they felt they could have scored far more than what they did. This is the reality of the Steelers. Hard questions need to be pondered. Maybe the Black and Gold Brigade is just a bad team. Perhaps the window of Super Bowl contention has slammed shut. Full-blown panic has set in for the Steel City. Pittsburgh shall remain miserable and angry in everyday life for the remainder of the work week. As Le'Veon slowly licks his chops at this team's self-destruction, we conclude another episode of Days of Our Steelers.
Good again to make it a 6-point.
This week on Days of Our Steelers, the prodigal son makes an announcement to the hope-starved citizens of Pittsburgh. Le'Veon Bell has had enough struggling with the sunshine and relaxation in the oasis of Miami. His rap ambitions have been realized with the official release of his EP and desires to return to the football field. He has allegedly chosen his date to return. Week 7. Yes, Week 7. This also coincides with the Steelers' bye week, so it should lead to less wear and tear on his Herculean body. Even as the offensive linemen ponder why he's taking so goddamn long, there may be hope for the Black and Gold Brigade. Well, except for the Steelers brass. Angry and vengeful at their wayward running back, they may be flirting with the idea of a 2-week roster exemption for Le'Veon, thus potentially robbing him of another 7 figures in salary. Punitive punishments are truly the Steeler way, especially for a bell cow like Le'Veon. Meanwhile, in the diva circles, Antonio Brown is frustrated with the passing attack. He compared it to a spotty Wi-Fi connection. Not like a bad provider, more like that shitty hotel Wi-Fi that is slow as hell and keeps cutting out because it's a dick. Once again, truly a man who understands the real world. The game this week is all but crucial for both teams. The Steelers and Falcons desperately need wins to keep their playoff ambitions in decent health. Despite massive questions that remain for the Black and Gold Brigade, they played the most complete, well-rounded game of the season. They physically dominated the line on both sides of the ball and... Wait, Ed, this isn't the right script. It appears I'm looking at the wrong implosion. Time for an audible.
This week
On General Hospital, the hopes and ambitions for the Atlanta Falcons season takes a massive turn for the worse and nearly drowns in the Three Rivers. Joining the cast in the hospital ward is their starting defensive tackle, Grady Jarrett. A devastating blow for a defense shot to pieces. In yet another embarrassing affair, the flightless Death Rats unleashed a horrific sickness upon their fanbase and shot themselves in the dick repeatedly. The autopsy to this game reveals the cause of death being, well, everything. A few unnecessary penalties, more drunken play calling by Sarkisian, the offensive line collapsing like the lungs of these Falcons, and that defense. Oh boy, that defense is something special, ain't it? The Falcons' D is a lot like a Fabergé egg. Ornate, delicate, and beautiful. And then some bastard chucked it against the wall, shattering it into a billion pieces and exposing its hollow remains. James Conner bull rushes the carcass and pisses on its ashes. By the way, have another in-game injury to Tack McKinley. Oh yes, Tack, Big Ben saw you. And you cramped up like the defense did. At least Alfred can try to help you out. Oh wait, his ass got third-degree burns by Antonio Brown. Be warmed in this failure by allowing a team with a sketchy pass rush to feast on Matty Ice all game long. The Falcons and their once-hyped season are now on life support, battered and beaten by a series of painful defeats and embarrassments that make 28-3 almost look routine. In a stacked NFC South, Atlanta is the odd ones looking inward. At 1-4, the season is all but finished in name only. What will these sickening birds do to mend the tide? Will Matt Ryan and the offense find ways to bail them out? Oh right, the defense is still wrecked to shit. You're fucked. This failure to succeed with the talent at your disposal will probably cost Dan Quinn his job. Have a nice afterlife on the unemployment line. At least for one day, the drama-laden circus of the Steelers gets to flaunt and ballyhoo about going to the Super Bowl and fancy themselves beating New England. Like the Falcons' playoff hopes, General Hospital will fade to black.
There's nothing like a strong victory. There's no way the Steelers can fuck this up.
Are you motherfucking kidding?
This week, on Days of Our Steelers. They blocked me on Twitter! I didn't even directly tweet or message these people, they just blocked me like a pulling de Castro. How long until their death squads come after me? This week, on Days of Our Steelers, the Diva tries his hardest to improve Wi-Fi connectivity in Florida and on the football field. No stranger to the spotlight, Antonio Brown apparently had an off-season to remember. Not only did his likeness get plastered on the cover of Madden, its curse apparently hit him much earlier than anyone else's. Flashback to a sunny day in April. Antonio Brown is returning to his loft in Florida after more than likely strutting his peacock feathers for the loving cameras. There was something amiss though. He believes he had been robbed of valuable possessions. The prize is stolen, $80,000 and a gun. With all of that money, a safe to hold these items is deemed obsolete in Antonio's eyes. To him, this was like losing a remote, but much more sinister. Antonio has been crossed. There is only one logical explanation. He was set up by apartment security. In an impulsive fit of rage, Brown proceeds to do what most reasonable people do in this situation. Chuck furniture out the window of a 14th floor balcony. Little did he know the gods of fate were not on his side. The furniture and vases he threw for glory nearly hit a toddler and his grandfather. The poor child was a foot or two away from being directly hit, and now this boy is suffering night terrors and further trauma, anguish that no one deserves. Brown may be pleading his innocence, but he is currently being subpoenaed for 2 lawsuits. One by the landlord, and one by the father of the toddler. The suits allege that Brown was belligerent and yelling at security, further proving how much of a likable guy he is off the field. A spin on the wheel of discipline is in the realm of possibility. Head coach Mike Tomlin again chooses to cover his ears and ignore the noise around him. There is football that needs to be played, but there is one thing he needs to mention. The blatant ref ball that is hurting his team. The Bullfrog criticized officials, huffing and puffing that he was pissed at how they were ruining the game. The rules are ridiculous, he says. Unfortunately for him, one thing the NFL does not like is being called out for their bullshit. He was told a fine of $25,000 to the NFL's concussion settlement fund. In this regard, the Ginger Hammer always wins. The hammer was also used to strike a blow for the Indianapolis Colts. Battered by a ridiculous string of injuries, they are forced to settle for a new acquisition. Former Steeler Mike Mitchell. Now they will know the horrors of his piss-poor tackling form and a mouth that would make Furby seem like a mute in comparison. Mitchell does have a theory as to why he couldn't get a job. Eric Reed and his social protests during the anthem. No, Mike, it has nothing to do with the glut of veteran safeties on the market or your terrible performance. It's to do with the guy taking a fucking knee. Someone get duct tape so he can shut the fuck up for once. He can learn from Le'Veon Bell in this regard. Despite boasting that he would return on the Steelers' bye week, neither he nor his agent have made contact with the organization. It's probably going to be one of those things where he pops out of a Jack-in-the-Box and starts a civil war with James Conner just because. In other news, Juju Smith-Schuster gave birth to a beautiful baby boy on the football field. The beginnings of fatherhood are forming. He was last seen carrying his baby on a onesie in the Steelers' locker room. Drama aside, today's matchup is against a team that the Steelers have consistently found joy in beating. The Bungles. Winners of 6 straight against this irrelevant franchise, the Black and Gold Brigade takes the field on a misty Sunday ready to maintain the narrative. Cincinnati, however, has other plans. They are off to a hot start this season, boasting a 4-1 record, and a victory against the Steel City will go a long way to legitimizing them. As no one on either side can make a catch, the affair turns into the gritty physical affair commonplace in these matches. James Conner did more to prove that the Steelers don't really need Le'Veon to have a strong running game. He beat those defenders like he beat cancer. He says that he doesn't want to be known as the guy that beat cancer, but television wants cheap talking points and everyone wants to beat the shit out of cancer. By the way, has anyone mentioned on this broadcast that he beat cancer yet? Another glorious sight is the eternal lineage of Vontaze Burfict, who chose to try and kill Antonio Brown yet again by means of targeting. As the most beloved man of Pittsburgh, Steelers fans cheered as he was repeatedly owned by the tank known as Vance McDonald and Connor. Despite these strong performances, the terrible defense showed its ugly face as Artie Burns was torched like the Reichstag and proved his first-round pedigree. Cincinnati boasted the lead in the skirmish with a minute and change left. This is usually a bad omen for the Bungles, as they have always found unique ways to crumble, but this is a different team. The Escalooser has closed down and victory shall be drank. Little did they know they were fooling themselves. The high-end talent of the Steelers bailed out the team from certain defeat, like they have done many times over the past few years. They did get some help from a grossly inept defense that was eager to bend over and take their domination on all fours. The Bungles once again bungled. As the Peacock struts his feathers again after an easy touchdown, Cincinnati is staring at the status quo. The Bungles are to Pittsburgh as the Steelers are to New England. They cannot beat them. This now marks the 7th straight victory over their doormat with no end in sight. Perhaps they should have tried throwing furniture at Big Ben on the final play instead of blitzing everybody. As they ponder this course of action, the Escalooser is back in business. The Bungles had a statement win in their grasp and let it slip away yet again. The Steelers' ambitions of the Super Bowl are kicked back into overdrive. As they go into the bye week, we can only hope that the drama ends. Who the hell am I kidding? This is going to keep happening all season. At least there is one comforting fact for the Steelers. They are once again ahead of Cleveland in the standings. Like cancer metastasizing throughout the team's body, so are the days of our Steelers. This week, on Days of Our Steelers, a lesson is learned as to why you can't trust hearsay, even if it's reported by reputable news sources. Several weeks ago, the prodigal son Le'Veon Bell boasted to private sources that he would return to the Steelers' home base in Week 7 or the bye week. Despite this boast, the team had heard from neither Bell nor his agent. To the surprise of no one in football circles, Le'Veon has still not returned to the team. Even if a trade is not made, there is a chance that Bell will not return for the season. The impasse continues. Juju Smith-Schuster, however, is an optimist. He believes that he can bring Bell back into the Steel flock. The Mega Millions is his ticket to Le'Veon's heart. 100 of them to be exact. Like all good plans, it bursts into flame. It does not work. Le'Veon will not get his money to join the team. The running back was not amused. He believes everyone is trying to be Kevin Hart and get a laugh at his expense. No, sir, you just happen to do that to yourself. In terms of comedy, this matchup is looking to be a laugher as they play their beloved doormat in the Cleveland Browns. Throughout the season, the Factory of Sadness has ended their winless streak, but has proceeded to twist the knife in ways that rival Chinese torture techniques. Even for Cleveland standards, this year has been agony for them. In the first quarter, they get somewhat of a reprieve. The Black and Gold Brigade proceeded to remain on their bye week as nobody can tackle and offensive Wi-Fi is region blocked. Despite the chances for the Browns to take a commanding lead in this game, they once again failed to capitalize. The Steelers take momentum back with a few strikes, but they don't put it away as they should. A few key fumbles, turnovers, and more idiocy on a free kick lead to the Browns staying in it.
I mean, come the fuck on. This same exact scenario happened a few years ago. How do you not know a free kick isn't the same thing as a fucking punt? It's a live ball, you worthless sack!
Despite the score sheet being close and playing very sloppy football, Pittsburgh realized that they have talent and led the world to relish in its great pastime. laughing at the Browns.
Yes, even in a series meant to laugh at the Steelers, the Eternal Factory of Sadness manages to take center stage. When you think they can't go lower, they stumble onto a portal to another dimension and dig there. The Browns have been irrelevant and laughable ever since they returned to the league, and it's turning into yet another lost season for them. This was supposed to be your chance to prove yourselves. You had real players. You had real coaches. You still fucked it up. It's almost as if Hugh Jackson should have been fired last season instead of kicking the can. I know everyone's going to bitch about stability, but not when the foundation is built on a swamp and ready to collapse. You guys are going to ruin Baker. Hell, you already are. His college swagger has been sapped from him. He's completely shot to shit. The Browns should be a solid team, all things considered, but this is fucking Cleveland, and they can't have anything nice because they're owned by an inept clown that wants to be Jerry Boy so fucking bad that he's ruining Tennessee's football program as well. Speaking of Hugh Jackson,
why didn't you call timeouts toward the end of that second quarter there to have timeout at clock when you got the ball back? You could have called some timeouts, or at least have time on the clock when.
I don't even recall that situation that you're speaking to. So
what? Did I hear that correctly? You didn't know you had timeouts at the end of a half? How long have you been a head coach for again? This is a mistake they don't make in Pop Warner, and you admitted your incompetence to the media. This guy is going down as one of the worst head coaches in NFL history. The dude is outmatched and has nothing but excuses for his failures. Looks like it's going to involve more firings because Cleveland is a shit show and Haslam changes philosophies like he changes pants. Would you look at that? Hugh Jackson has finally been fired. Once again, should have happened last year. I'm not congratulating you for something that should have been done over 9 months ago. It doesn't end there either. Todd Haley is also gone. That abrasive asswipe that fancies himself an offensive genius was told to fuck off as well. Eat shit, Haley. You hear that in the distance? That's called karma. Eat a healthy serving of it at Tequila Cowboy. The season is fucked and Cleveland is a joke again. The new man in charge of the helm is Greg Williams? The same Greg Williams from Bountygate. The same Greg Williams that ran the Bills into the ground at the turn of the millennium. He's a head coach again? Yep, season's done. At least their coaching search can be Lincoln Riley? Why the hell would he want to come to this shithole? And don't say Mo Baker, because that's a lazy excuse. Someone please send Jimmy Haslam to prison already. Only then will Browns fans have the potential for peace. Fucking Cleveland making themselves the center of attention again. Go sink into Lake Erie like the Cavs are doing right now. Haslam and Dan Gilbert are birds of a feather. This is supposed to be about the Steelers. Well, they do relish in laughing at the Browns. It works. I wish you luck. You're going to need all of it.
This week, on Days of Our Steelers,
a moment of fucking peace. Please, just let me have this moment. The Steelers controlled and strangled their rival on both ends of the ball, but I have to say one thing to Baltimore. Thank you. Thank you for your god-awful red zone play calling. Thank you for not being able to stop a third down if your lives depended on it. Thank you for treating Lamar Jackson as if he's a fucking hood ornament instead of a football player. Oh, I wonder what the hell you're doing if he's behind center. It sure as hell isn't passing the ball. Who would think that? The Ravens have lost 3 straight and are once again caught in the relentless eye of mediocrity. I'd make a shitty Poe reference, but it drowned itself in the harbor. Everyone missed it like Joe Flacco missed easy reads to his right-hand side. Who the hell needs Le'Veon when James Conner is owning everyone like a boss anyway? Although the drama will probably continue, I at least have a week of tranquility. Even if Captain Fatfuck nearly died on the field. Thank fucking God.
This week, on Days of Our Steelers, the peace is short-lived as an old face re-emerges onto the Pittsburgh scene. Despite consistently vanishing when the heat is on him, Le'Veon has decided that enough is enough and has left his temporary oasis in Miami. In a tweet, the running back states, "Farewell, Miami." The misspelling was probably deliberate as he will most likely return come January. For the meantime, he has settled back into the hostile estate of Pittsburgh. Obviously not coming back for the consistent rain and impending snow in the forecast, Bell puts on his game face and returns to competition, playing pickup basketball at a local gym. The irony of him not risking his health for $14 million, yet potentially being injured for free, is not lost upon the Steeler faithful. Despite his questionable antics, Le'Veon feels he has an end game he's shooting for. He released a series of cryptic tweets for what he feels caters to the Southern Hemisphere. As the rest of us experienced neck pain, Bell states that we shouldn't judge him for his holdout, but we should read between the lines like he does when he's in the backfield. He has also doubled down in not apologizing for his responsibility in creating this program. I wouldn't either. This has been gold in terms of content. What is also gold is new information uncovered in the CBA about Le'Veon's contract situation. If the Steelers would franchise tag him again, he would have to be paid $25 million. If Le'Veon doesn't show up before Tuesday, the Steelers only have the options of a transition tag or cutting their losses. Le'Veon Bell may get his wish. Just like many other weeks, Antonio Brown has decided not to be outshined off the field once again. Imitating his flashy performances on the field, the diva chose to go for a high-speed joyride on a major suburban highway. Brown was cited for speeding over 100 miles per hour on McKnight Road in the morning before the game.
In all seriousness, how do you even go over 100 on McKnight? That road is nothing but traffic lights and retail as far as the eye can see. I'm more amazed he was able to pull it off. Whatever the real issue at hand is a matinee matchup against a Carolina Panthers team eager to assert themselves among the NFC's elite. In their first drive, it was precision and exposed the Steelers' flaws. Carolina was going to cruise to victory.
I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. This is the greatest thrill of my life. I'm king of the world. Woohoo! Woohoo!
They didn't.
Throws has Juju Smith-Schuster. What a start to the night. One play, bang, touchdown Steelers.
In what would become endless spank bank material for the rest of the NFC South, the Panthers were annihilated within one half of play. All optimism that Charlotte had over the past few weeks undone as they caught whatever the hell the Buccaneers defense has and were unable to stop even the slightest of breezes. The Steelers offense was playing Madden, scoring at will and the opposing team's AI doing nothing to stop them. The Black and Gold Brigade chose to play to their potential with a glorious ass-whooping not seen since the Gulf War. The Panthers played like the Republican Guard, hyped up as this great force, and then crumbling under the might of the Steel Curtain. Up by 17, the game couldn't get much worse for Carolina. Then came the second half. The beating of Carolina's hopes and dreams and the meat of every Yinzer in a 200-mile radius continued deep into the night. The Panthers were poached and stuffed by an army of taxidermists, their ambitions of a Super Bowl taking a serious hit. The Steelers, meanwhile, sped past their opponent like AB's black Porsche. Who knew that he was merely depicting what would happen that night? This time, however, he was not pulled over and cited for violating traffic laws. Captain Fatfuck was obviously riding shotgun as he threw more touchdowns than incompletions. As the laws of Thursday Night Football are upheld, the Black and Gold Brigade enters the fast lane as Yinzer mode begins to overtake us all, even the narrator of this series. A Super Bowl victory is inevitable. All hail the insufferable Yinzers as we crush whatever hopes of parity you may have had. Just another day's work for the drama-laden days of our Steelers.
Last time on Saxonville Abbey, these young band of ruffians were led to the knackers by the tired old steeds in Indianapolis town. Chef Ramsay served up a glorious bag of manure for himself to consume. A man whom he called a substandard quarterback raised his defenses for several key plays. This is what we call karma, children. A display of abysmal play topped off by Lord Bortles handing his deadly coughing fit to one of their young wide receivers. The Jaguars' once promising season now hanging in a precarious balance between ledge and chasm. I'm Richard Schittenborough, and this is Saxonville Abbey.
Funding for Saxonville Abbey is provided by the Church of Carson Wentz of Latter-Down Receivers, the Meadowlands Butt Fumble Society, Antonio Brown Street Racing and Premium Throwing Furniture, and by Aaron Rodgers Rectal Extraction Associates. Further funding for Saxonville Abbey was provided by the Corporation for Public Shitposting and by monthly financial support from sports ball viewers like you. Thank you, you weirdos.
This week, on Days of Our Steelers, a message arrives from the prodigal son. Nothing. The decision regarding Le'Veon Bell's immediate future was awaited with a combination of dread and a desire to get it over with. Bell played his final card by moving back to the Steel City and competing in the spirited game of pickup basketball. Despite these moves hinting towards a return, Tuesday's deadline came and went without the running back arriving to the team's headquarters. Le'Veon Bell will not be a Steeler this season. Captain Fatfuck attempted to contact him before the deadline passed. The only response was in silence. What was once thought of as a temporary standoff has now turned into a total loss. Le'Veon has not only angered the Steelers' faithful, but those that pissed away a top draft pick on him in fantasy leagues. He has gambled on having a bad team throw a shitload of money at him in free agency. Whether it succeeds or not is to be determined. At this point, good fucking riddance. The players themselves almost feel a sigh of relief at this conclusion. The Black and Gold Brigade can now focus on what's important to them. Raiding his locker of all valuables. A team-bonding and professional move if there ever was one. The Twitter terrorizer Bud Dupree imitated a true pirate and took a sleek pair of Jordans. Perhaps they can see a backfield this season, unlike Le'Veon. Some may say this is a bad look for an organization rife in drama, but this was apparently lighthearted and therapeutic for them. The team will call it a situation where boys will be boys and do nothing about it. Meanwhile...
Duval, a land under siege by the forces of failure. As the sun sets and their hopes fade to black, there is no more room for error. With a fiercely challenging opponent on the horizon, it is easier said than done. Chef Ramsay has taken a thick lashing thanks to his open proclamations outside the square. Little does our Michelin star maestro understand the golden rule of shitposting. You talk shit, you get hit. Ramsay may be a star in the culinary world, but he has had a hard time accepting responsibility for his actions. The head of the Saxonville Battalion has pointed his cannons at the viewing public. The Jaguars have been betrayed. The peasantry have become fickle. They need to be put in their place. He feels that the fans are going to miss them when the Abbey becomes a vassal again. A most surefire way to bring the world to your side. The leaders of Jacksonville ponder the next course of action. Perhaps it involves a transfer of Chef Ramsay to a new estate, giving up their best defensive playmaker for reasons of a non-existent culture. These are men of nobility. The rules of the house must be maintained.
In this next affair, the Black and Gold Brigade takes on a new thorn. Jacksonville. The humiliation suffered at their hands last season is not forgotten. Despite being their kryptonite, the Jaguars are deep in their own turmoil, losing their last 5 in brutal fashion.
As the boys anticipate a team they had bested and soon imitated, the importance for victory is greater than ever. One more loss may all but take them out of the playoff hunt completely.
The beginnings of this game lead to a familiar script, the Steelers being completely unprepared for their opponent.
Would you call this playing down to their competition? I mean, Fournette is back to full strength.
The Lords of Duval start out with a promising run of form, but there is a massive hitch to their plans. The offensive push is sluggish. Lord Bortles is once again imitating a professional quarterback. Despite a return of brilliance by Leonard, the 4 of nets, what should be touchdowns are only field goals. Regardless of their sheer domination on the ledger, they only boast a 9-point advantage to show for it.
There is literally no other way to describe this game than sheer ugliness. Captain Fatfuck looked completely out of sync, the running game stuffed at every turn, and the defense showing holes being unable to stop Leonard Fournette. The Steelers need to get their act together and quickly.
The lingering fear of losing keeps in the mind of Saxonville's faithful. As the Jaguars continue to take penalty after penalty, the Steelers' offense plays right into the hands of the defense. Big Ben atoned for his sins as he gave them presence on a consistent basis.
Roethlisberger malfunctioned as his robotic exoskeleton proceeded to glitch out. His passes missed like the courting of Stormy Daniels. At least until one big pass to the Diva to give them life.
The Jaguars tried their damnedest to hold a wall despite a terrible Pittsburgh offense, but the dam eventually broke to a deep gash by Antonio Brown. Even Chef Ramsay can only stop and stare as the village is poisoned.
In these terrible times, we can only rely on high-end talent to hopefully bail them out of an awful situation. The Jacksonville play calling did their best to help, proceeding to do absolutely nothing every play.
Under the trusty stewardship of Lord Bortles, the Saxonville attack provided incredibly timid responses. Ridiculously predictable play calling that the Steelers saw coming like the Queen. God save her if she had to witness this abomination.
The Jaguars did everything in their power to hand the Steelers an undeserved victory.
The heads of Duval became complacent as they chose to let their vaunted defense try and stop the oncoming attackers over and over again. It was only a matter of time before they would manage to break through. It is only a 10-point advantage, easily surmountable.
As the defense did their part by sitting around and letting Jacksonville stumble over themselves, Captain Fatfuck was reprogrammed and given a healthy dosage of painkillers. Those drugs are like spinach to Popeye. It grants him superpowers.
It's almost as if the Jaguars are being run by Douglas Haig, doing the same thing expecting a different result every time. Perhaps they should have learned from Einstein. Unsurprisingly, the Steelers were able to break through their so-called impenetrable lines. The populace grows wrought with concern.
The Steelers have come back into the game, but a fourth down needs to be converted.
Oh my god, Connor, you've gotta catch that shit!
The reinforcements managed to hold the line. Perhaps the offense can do something. Oh right, they fell to shit once again. Because it's the Jaguars and they are arrogant and feel they can do no wrong.
Thank God Jacksonville doesn't have a real quarterback.
As Pittsburgh prepares for another attack, there may not be enough in the tank for the defense to stop them.
There wasn't. The Steelers marched down the field once again for another touchdown. All hail the Vanimal.
Throughout the land, the serfdom is being sacrificed as cannon fodder to prevent their seemingly inevitable defeat. The Jaguars have to do something. The offense needs to do its job.
What the fuck are you doing, Jacksonville? You've been running the same plays all quarter!
Lord Bortles and the offense were proven incompetent again.
Big Ben reached back and pulled out another trusty bailout from his back pocket.
The writing is all but on the wall now. Petty, I figured this would be the turning point.
Oh my god, Connor, you gotta catch that shit!
The battering rams are at the gate. The doors are being pushed open. They have come to slay the king.
Running like an option, gonna keep it, dives! Did he break it? Yes, he did!
They won? What?
The collapse is complete.
How the fuck did they win? The Jags should have beaten our asses handily.
The Lords of Duval have turned out to be frauds.
I have never seen a team as incompetent as Jacksonville was.
Their stronghold conquered by a team they had dominated all day.
4 straight 3-and-outs, over 100 yards in penalties? It's not even an effort thing, the Steelers barely had to fucking try.
Complete and utter humiliation.
For God's sake, ask Madden could have called a better game than the Jags did.
The Jaguars defeated themselves.
I mean, I know Bortles sucks, but holy shit, throw some screens, run play action, rollouts, give Fournette some room to fucking breathe.
With this latest batch of incompetence, the season is all but dead.
I feel the same way I did after that wildcard game against the Bengals. My jaw has hit the floor.
Of course, Duval will fail to identify the real problems with the squad and blame the defense for this defeat. It's in no way Lord Bortles' fault, even though they don't trust him to throw a football.
I'm honestly counting this one as a loss. The Steelers won't, but they had no business of winning this one. Take the money and run, boys.
The serfdom is about to rebel. 6 straight losses. A locker room in chaos. Uninspired leadership. The descent back to mockery is beginning. If you'll excuse me, I have to pack my things as the torches are starting to appear before the Abbey. Cheers.
This week on Days of Our Steelers, an escape from Jacksonville with a stunningly undeserved victory as they hopefully don't look a gift horse in the mouth. On the drama front, there was next to nothing.
Man, I could get used to this. The only thing was a minor beef on Twitter between Ryan Switzer and a sports talk show host. Even then, they patched it up and turned the situation into a charity drive. I don't have to deal with Le'Veon, or AB being a diva, or any other shit that came up. We can focus on football. This episode might be moved to sports ball again. You have no idea how much I love this.
Little did this man know that he would be highly disappointed. This week's matchup brings us to the Rocky Mountains for a game against the Denver Broncos. They aren't exactly the most elite of teams, but they are in desperation mode and need to scrape together wins by any means necessary. Beating the Chargers last week was a start, but the Steelers will not fall into their traps. They'll simply fall into their own. A field goal block on the first drive would hopefully bring them to understand that Denver would play hard. They seem to get the message. The Black and Gold Brigade charges down the field with fury and Grimble.
Grimble! Why the fuck do you fumble there? No wonder why you're the third string tight end. Get in the pit!
The start is concerning, but both teams would continue to jockey for position in the scrum. Despite another Denver touchdown and a lack of execution, the Steelers have two things up their sleeve: trickery and high-end talent. They could kick a field goal, but that's not sexy enough. Have a pass to the Army Ranger by Boswell. Q5 times where announcers say Villanueva served several tours of duty in Afghanistan. Wash the taste of his boot out of your mouth with a 97-yard stride by Juju. Bask in all of that talent. The Steelers are going to the Super Bowl. New England is going to get fucked so hard they'd think we were General Howe. Yinzer Nation will rise and be insufferable for weeks to come. Or Captain Fatfuck will do that. Denver immediately responds because the Steelers' defense can't be relied upon for a big play. This match was a game again. Let the Broncos fans think that. Let them pretend they're going to win, because the Black and Gold Brigade will march down the field and— No!
Connor! No! Why do you betray us now? My life is a lie!
Denver then near seamlessly runs down the field, eating precious clock as the steel curtain bends. And bends. And bends. You get the point. The Broncos now lead by 7 as time dwindles. Perhaps the Black and Gold Brigade can bother to get out of their mistake-prone trance and play up to their abilities. How the fuck is this even a game? The Steelers should be absolutely creaming these guys. It's almost as if they were horrifically unprepared, just like most times when playing an inferior opponent. I know you can't blame Tomlin when players make errors, but where is the execution? Where is the urgency? It's a tradition like any other. The Steelers playing down to their competition. The Broncos have things Pittsburgh lacks, like drive, and hunger, and minimizing careless mistakes. Despite this, Yinzer Nation awaits yet another bailout from most certain embarrassment thanks to their offensive talent. The Black and Gold Brigade make quick work of Denver on their final drive. They are masters at pulling off this bullshit.
3rd and goal. Over the top and intercepted!
What the hell was that?
Let me try and comprehend what I just witnessed. Fat fuck takes the ball, motions to hand it off, and then rips it from Connor when he has money in these situations, while throwing to fucking nothing. Who is that even to? If it was a B, it was a horrific underthrow. Where the hell have I seen something close to this?
Fakes the spike, still has it, now fires, and it's intercepted!
Oh my god, it's like these guys have learned nothing. I am incredibly shocked to find this out. The Steelers left 17 to 24 points on the damn board because they couldn't stop fucking up. I had equipped for this, but I fumbled it. Ha! Denver may have gotten kinda lucky, but they played hard and they played to win. In my mind, the better team won. They made Vance Joseph look decent. Vance Joseph! How the fuck do you do that? I'd say I'm surprised, but I'm not. I'd be more shocked if they weren't playing down to teams. Like the team bringing the Broncos back in the playoff hunt, so were the days of our Steelers.
Fucking hell, can these guys not force me to separate this shit for once?
This week, on Days of Our Steelers, Captain Fatfuck goes on the offensive, and it's not on the football field. After an embarrassing loss to the Broncos where the Black and Gold Brigade fumbled most opportunities, scapegoats needed to be made. As the self-proclaimed elder statesman on the team, Captain Fatfuck chooses to take the initiative. His first target, the rookie wide receiver. He has failed this team far too many times. James Washington didn't come down with the crucial pass after he dove for it and the ball dropped from under him. He didn't just throw James off the bus, he threw him off a ledge on his radio show. It isn't his fault that he slightly overthrew his target at all. It's the receiver who didn't make him look good. Captain Fatfuck. Leader of men. His next target is another wide receiver, a much bigger name, the Diva. On the final play of the game, in which Ben had the entire world wondering if he had lost brain cells, he claims AB was at fault. He says he ran a bad route, resulting in the interception. Yes, we have to ignore the poor read and underthrow by Big Ben for this to in any way make sense. This is also the fault of his offensive coordinator for calling bad plays. It's not like he can try for different reads if his first option is covered. Once again, it is not his fault for his mistakes. Make his teammates take the fall. Captain Fatfuck, leader of men. While some may take offense to the way Roethlisberger went about chastising his teammates for things that aren't completely their fault, the quarterback feels that he is in the right with his public roastings. He feels that he has earned the right to criticize his teammates, citing his pedigree and Super Bowl rings. These accomplishments make him entitled to do things that would be frowned upon in most circles while refusing to accept blame for his involvement. Criticism for thee, but not for me. Captain Fatfuck, leader of men. Despite these public lashings, the Diva is okay with it. He's a big boy and understands his quarterback. Just get him the ball and everything would be fine. The Steelers would be looking to rebound after a self-destructive performance with a matchup against another AFC West opponent in the Chargers. On home soil in prime time when they are celebrating several Super Bowl anniversaries, the planets were aligned for an awe-inspiring victory. Seeking revenge and an easy target, they went right to work. They started kicking the Chargers' ass so hard that they were nearly booted back to San Diego. Dominating displays of courage, athleticism, and crushing any sort of spirit a team with no real home games may encounter. Even the defense is...
Isn't that a false start? Come on, you inept fuckwads. How awful do you have to be to not notice that sort of jump? Fucking hell, Ravens and Patriots fans would say that was a false start. What a joke.
Steeler Nation would rally them on, though. They need to make their alumni proud. Look at how Ben overthrows his receiver yet again. Justin Hunter should have been faster and taller, not the QB's fault. Making up for that faux pas, Captain Fatfuck leads his mates to another interception. This was also obviously the receiver's fault for Ben painfully underthrowing that pass. It doesn't matter though, since the Steelers went right back to having a strong Wi-Fi connection and pissed on the ashes of an often mocked franchise. The Yinzers have come out of hiding. The parade has been renewed. I repeat, the Super Bowl parade is back on. The Black and Gold Brigade take a decisive 16-point lead at halftime with a chance to rip their throats out. This will be the statement victory they need. They will have the ball at halftime as they do nothing with it. Fortunately, the Charger offense has done nothing against the Steel Curtain all game. The running game is stuffed, the passing lanes are blocked, and Phillip Rivers is taking such a beating that he may have a 10th child on the field. An easy interception.
That's funny. I could have sworn we cut Mike Mitchell in the spring. That was an easy fucking interception, yet one of our high draft picks comes in with the hit stick and kills our best corner. Now we have to deal with Artie Burns sucking dicks again. Fucking lovely. With the Chargers suddenly back in the game, the offense goes flat. Perhaps it's an issue with Captain Fatfuck being too cozy with the O coordinator. They are far too busy trying to pass the ball instead of establishing a ground game. With one of the best run-blocking offensive lines in football, any defensive coordinator with their salt will adjust. To the Steelers, what is adjusting? Do the same things over and over again, expecting high-end talent to win the day.
Inside the 20, the 10, all the way for the touchdown.
Little did we know it would be the Chargers taking the initiative. With another 2-point conversion, the game was tied. The Steelers blew a golden opportunity in front of their home crowd. Suddenly, the parade plans were being cancelled. Fans were openly fighting with one another in the stands. Everyone is at each other's throats. "You are not a real fan," they scream to one another as they offer sacrifices to the football gods. One of the 8 Charger fans in attendance should do the trick. The Steelers need this win to keep up with the big boys in the conference. Pittsburgh's offense has gone flat while their defense suddenly couldn't stop a tumbleweed. As the rest of us wonder who the hell Justin Jackson is, the mercenary squad known as the Chargers have taken the lead. This is absolutely fucking embarrassing. I was hoping for a nice easy game with no drama and a realization that I may be wrong, but no, they had to choke it. And yes, they did choke it. The Steelers had them by the fucking throat. They could have crushed them to bits, yet they allowed them back in it. Look at them now, scoring a touchdown to tie the game. Now all the defense has to do is make a stop with 4 minutes left. To no one's surprise, they can't accomplish this goal. Slowly chipping away at the field, the Steeler faithful panics at what could be their fate. Their overconfidence would be shattered. Pants shitting increases 20-fold as they reach field goal range. It will take a miracle for this to continue.
Yes, they still suck! Fuck you, Spanos, you kickers! Ah! God damn it, Hayden, I thought you were one of the good guys! Now they can kick again! That was so goddamn obvious, it's like they're deliberately trying to cheese the system. Just take them to the goal line at this rate, good God. And of course, they make it. I'm more amazed at Artie Burns. The dude was so offsides he missed the kick. You can't cover a geriatric tight end yet blaze past the holder? God, you fucking suck. All I wanted to do was just laugh at the Chargers in Spanos for roughly the 73rd time, but nope. You guys had to fuck it all up. The Steelers had a statement win in the palm of their hands and they let it slip away. I know everyone's going to blame the refs or the long snapper or the Patriots or the wind blowing in from the river, but here's reality. Great teams finish off their prey no matter the circumstances. A 16-point lead with the ball at half should have been game over. They fucking blew it. It's not hard to admit. At the end of the day, that uncalled false start doesn't matter. The refs didn't cause Sean Mitchell to level a guy with an easy interception. The refs didn't cause the defense to fail miserably to make any kind of stop. The refs didn't stop the Steelers' offense from making any kind of progress in the second half. The refs didn't force the Steelers to cover the best wide receiver on the other team with fucking linebackers all game. Jesus, even Shazier wouldn't have been able to cover Keenan Allen. How the hell do you expect John Bostic to? I'm not pissed that they lost, I'm pissed at the way they lost. Did you see what the Chargers did, Tomlin? It's called adjusting to your game plan. You got horribly outcoached by a second-year guy missing his best running back, defensive tackle, and middle linebacker. And you know they aren't going to learn a damn thing from this. They're just going to blame the refs for their loss and call it a day. But while you do that, not only is a first-round bye all but out of the question, guess who snuck behind you again? Baltimore. They're a half game back now. You're back in the muck, Steelers. Try thinking you're above everything some more. It's worked so well for you in the past. If they lose to Oakland next week, I'm going to break some necks. It's not like we're dealing with injuries. Oh boy, now we're starting a converted tight end at running back. Fucking wonderful.
This week, on Days of Our Steelers, the Steel City looks for answers and scapegoats as a premature celebration was offsides and brought about a brutal implosion. Despite remaining control of their own destiny, these last two losses have put a dent in the team's January ambitions. Regardless, a sense of calm has remained with the organization, in the belief that the choke job against the Chargers was just a fluke. Offensive coordinator and Ben's puppet Randy Fichtner has taken some heat for neglecting the running game to such an extent. Even without Le'Veon, it has still been potent with Connor this season. Captain Fatfuck tells the critics to comb their tits about the run-to-pass ratio. Big Ben needs to pad his stats and just think of all of that juicy high-end talent to salivate at. The Steelers are not Thanos. They do not give a shit about any sort of balance. In the meantime, some have questioned whether there may be a rift between the Diva and Big Ben. Captain Fatfuck, being the great leader of men that he is, went on his radio show to state that the drama between him and AB is overblown. The Steelers have bigger issues to deal with next week. The main one is being without James Conner. With this injury, the running back core is now incredibly thin, with a certain prodigal son being MIA. They now start a rookie who was converted from tight end in a timeshare with a guy who was mostly used during garbage time. Despite this misfortune, the Black and Gold Brigade faces the closest thing to a softball opponent in the Oakland Raiders, a team in the midst of a chaotic freefall and despotic assumption of power. At 2-10, they are one of the worst teams in the league, but there is significant danger in this trip to California. The Raiders have been the equivalent of death to the team. Pittsburgh has not won there since 1995, and Big Ben has been snake-bitten against them. The main connection, Oakland has been utterly putrid when they've beaten the Steelers. The ghosts of Andrew Walter, Bruce Gradkowski, and Terrell Pryor haunted their nightmares for years. Even with this danger, they have everything to gain with a win. The Baltimore Ravens nearly upended the Chiefs, but couldn't keep up and lost. The Houston Texans also lost. The New England Patriots losing in incredibly humiliating fashion. This play will now be uploaded to Pornhub and become trending for weeks at a time. A victory will mean a chance at a first-round bye once again. The time has come for Pittsburgh to be sharp. Or just let the Raiders push down the field with minimal resistance. It is a narrative that has replayed itself repeatedly throughout the year. The Steelers coming out flatter than a map. Perhaps they can use it to find their lost offense once again. Methinks they should simply invest in a leash if it keeps vanishing like this. The lingering fears are now starting to sink into the fans' minds. Perhaps the Steelers overlooked yet another opponent, but let's forget about that, they scored a touchdown. All is well in the Black and Gold Brigade. Even as the Raiders kick another field goal, they can't stop taking penalties. Chris Boswell has been so automatic that he malfunctions and misses another field goal. Dude, seriously, what the fuck? Even as everyone is now questioning Boswell's ability after a contract extension, the glorious high-end talent comes to save the day. They bombastically strut down the field with peacock feathers and cringeworthy Fortnite dances in hand. All is well. The fans may be able to come out of their caves again. There may be hope for a Super Bowl just yet. As halftime commences, the game is close, but the Steelers are looking to put it away. There is only one thing missing: Captain Fatfuck. He has suffered something involving his ribs and is not in the game. Thus, they rely on their second-year backup Josh Dobbs to bring them to absolutely nothing. Even as the running game is a complete joke at this point, the Black and Gold Brigade chooses to focus on the passing attack. It falls into the black hole. The Steelers are going nowhere. Despite this offensive ineptitude, the Raiders are too eager to lose the game on their own. Derek Carr turns the ball over as the Steel Curtain openly celebrates their good fortune with a team pose. As they get the ball back, the new QB gives it right back to them with an interception. Strangely enough, Captain Fatfuck is on the sidelines, but is not in the game for whatever reason. Perhaps they're still trying to get the right cleats on Ryan Switzer to care. The worst fears have been realized. The Steelers are once again playing down to their competition. Some may say that this one is due to injuries, but that doesn't explain the terrible play calling or execution. Aren't you guys just so proud? Look at this fucking defense bend. Look at them give up insatiable yardage to a team with rookie tackles, faded skill players, and the shattered dreams of what was once a quarterback. They burned 8 fucking minutes on a touchdown drive. You couldn't stop this fucking outfit? Are you shitting me? Oh, so now we see Captain Fatfuck come into the game. When everything is falling to shit so talent can bail us out again. They do. Beautiful talent as far as the eye can see. Even the defense is doing fucking nothing. They're straight up putting a boot up their asses. You're seriously trying to tell me that this team was prepared? They haven't learned a fucking thing. I don't think Oakland's going to win, but Jesus, fuck, this is horrible. By the way, can someone please explain to me how Mike Tomlin still can't manage a game clock? Jesus Christ, it's going to happen. The Steelers losing a football game to a glorified college team. Did they not realize that the Raiders weren't just going to fucking lie down and die? But wait, here comes the high-end talent.
Here I come to save the day.
It's going to mask all of their worthless failure in this game, and everyone's going to ignore the glaring issues. Just pull off the bullshit already.
Good hold. And the Raiders have beaten the Steelers.
Are you fucking kidding me? All that flash and trickery to lose like that? What the hell happened to Boswell? The dude was fucking automatic last year and now he's treating the field like a water slide. Are you sure it wasn't just Switzer with the cleat fuck up? Fucking hell, this team is a joke. I can't honestly be shocked or surprised as most of you are. There was a part of my mind thinking that they were going to fuck this up, and by God they did. The Steelers pull this shit every goddamn year. It's hard to be angry when it's a tradition dating back to the days of Cower. Even then, the bar's lower than ever. You guys lost to the Raiders. This team has been openly punting the season since August and outright dominated in most games they've played. You were defeated by the NFL equivalent of Rutgers. A golden opportunity completely fucking squandered because the team chose to be cocky and arrogant like they always are. 12 years, Tomlin. 12 years in this league as a coach and you still don't know how to manage a fucking game clock. Why didn't you call your last time out? Why didn't you try anything different offensively? Why the fuck can't the defense cover a tight end if their lives depended on it? What are they gonna do against Gronk? Put Vance McDonald in coverage? Why the living hell was one of your best offensive weapons on the goddamn sideline while the offense was struggling?
You know, he got looked at halftime. He got treatment. He came back out. We were waiting to see if he was going to be able to come back in. He was. Probably could have come in a series or so sooner, but we were in the rhythm in Florida game.
Okay, Tomlin, I'm going to pretend that I did not hear that because I could have sworn you just indicted yourself for utter incompetence. So please, let me clear my ears. Explain yourself, Mike.
Probably could have come in a series or so sooner, but we were in the rhythm in Florida game.
You have got to be fucking shitting me. What the fuck kind of reasoning is that? Rhythm and flow? What goddamn flow? I saw a lot of terrible and dog shit if you could call that a flow. That offense had about as much rhythm as a Yinzer after 15 icy lights. This shit is grounds for being fired. I expect this sort of ineptitude from Hugh Jackson. That's how bad this looks. Look at this guy firing off every cliche in the book about fundamentals and the standard being the standard and not living in our fears because we're going to jump off this ledge into a pile of spikes. This shit all adds up. The overconfidence in your schemes, the way the players are acting, the way everyone dismissed Oakland as inferior on the team. You looked past your opponent again, didn't you? Did you learn anything from Jacksonville? How much of a cheerleader are you? At this point, you're Baghdad Bob pretending everything is fine as there's drama coming out of this organization every fucking week. How the fuck don't you know if a player has the right fucking cleats before the game? It's a lack of focus to detail, just like every other year. Now they get to potentially be in the shit with New England and New Orleans coming up. High-end talent can't bail you out forever, Mike. Just ask the other Mike from Green Bay how piggybacking off Aaron Rodgers worked out for him. You better be thankful that the Steelers don't fire coaches or else you'd be out on your ass soon. This team fucking sucks. A fucking X-ray machine? That's your fucking excuse? This week On Days of Our Steelers, a massive pothole is hit as Pittsburgh loses in humiliating fashion to one of the worst teams in the league. When Big Ben was injured in the game against Oakland last week, there were many wondering why he was on the sidelines but not playing. According to the Steel Bullet Bureau, the answer lies in the X-ray machine. It was apparently outdated equipment, which led to an inconclusive analysis. The incompetent piece of machinery was sent to a gulag to spend its last days performing grueling physical labor. This excuse does not save the Black and Gold Brigade from the wrath of alumni, however. There is a former Steeler that has had enough. Rocky Blyer, one of the more beloved players in team history, went off on a Heinz Field rant in a Facebook video. He is tired of all the bullshit. He wants to see results from this underachieving squad. He states that Boswell should be cut for his failings, Keith Butler be fired for incompetence, and, perhaps, an end to the Tomlin era. It wouldn't be a surprise if he doesn't receive a Christmas card from them as a repercussion. Also, word of advice, prepare to be blocked by the Steelers on Twitter. Remember, real Steelers fans don't complain about their current situation. Even as the Steelers have squandered opportunity after opportunity these past few weeks, Captain Fatfucker shows us all there is no panic in the locker room. This is stated as there are tryouts for the kicking position after Boswell's sudden case of missing uprights. Some of the people brought in to try out are Kai Forbath and Matt McCrane. Obviously household names to keep an eye on. Despite this competition, no change is made. Although as a result, they bring in former kicker Sean Sweezum to reinvigorate Boswell and restore his confidence. This week's contest is now must-win for the Black and Gold Brigade. Not only is the division lead at stake, they face a hated rival that has usually bested them, New England. The salt from last year's defeat still lingers in the mouths of every fan throughout the world. A victory grabbed from the Steelers at the last moment thanks to nobody knowing what a catch is. To add more salt to the wound, Jesse James's overturned reception would be considered as a catch under the new rules. The fake spike, we will not mention that failure, discussing it as a criminal offense in Allegheny County. New preparations are being made. The Steelers have brought in an expert Patriot whisperer to aid them, a former linebackers coach for the New York Giants who have experience in beating New England. This is Pittsburgh's version of the Super Bowl. Everything comes down to this game for them. The Steelers begin by making quick work of the Patriots' weakened defense and march down the field for an efficient touchdown. So far, not a bad start, but the Patriots' offense will be ruthless in their assault. Just like this long reception touchdown exposing a blitz package. This has always been New England's formula. Relentlessly pick apart every weakness in your defensive schemes. Tom Brady has made a living feasting on soft zone defenses in the NFL. Although fate seemed inevitable at this point, the New England Patriots weren't like their usual selves. They were inefficient. They were taking a lot of offensive penalties. Okay, what's the catch? Are they trying to get us to put our guard down or something? No need. The Steelers go down the field on their suspect defense again and score another touchdown. After this stroke of fortune for the Black and Gold Brigade, the whole affair transforms into a total shitfest. Both teams playing incredibly sloppy football that is unlike previous matchups. It's a very strange sight. Tom Brady moving around the pocket like a rickety old jalopy, and Rob Gronkowski turning into the geriatric Hulk with joint pain. These are not the Patriots of old. It's almost as if the Steelers may have a chance this time. You seriously believe that? The Steelers winning against New England? Come on, we all know some bullshit is going to happen and they escape with a W. It happens every time. Just wait until the second half. The Patriots are going to put this away. For now, it's more of the same. New England failing to gain any traction on offense with drops and poor blocking aplenty. Meanwhile, the Steelers are pushing down the field. They can get more insurance against their foe, and piss it away and force them to rely on Boswell.
Fucking hell, Boswell! Your job is to kick a fucking ball through the goddamn uprights! How are you pissing it?
The Patriots respond quickly to this botched field goal with a successful one of their own. Pittsburgh looks to return the favor, but Captain Fatfuck serves up another tasty treat for their defense. We have seen this script before. New England slowly chipping away at the defense and turning this into an uncomfortable situation. Even 3 points here would...
Did Tom Brady just throw that pass? In what sense was it a good idea for him to just chuck the ball out there like that? Can they? No, I can't be foolish. We already know the final result.
The Black and Gold Brigade proceeds to not be pretty on the next drive, but they do just enough to keep the ball moving and burn precious clock for the pretty boy from Boston. Who knew that a weak defense that can't stop the run is getting smoked by Jalen Samuels? I bet that Le'Veon would not like this game on Instagram like last week's affair. Despite the push, they must rely on the new whipping boy of the Steelers, Chris Boswell.
Did Chris Boswell just make a field goal? Do my eyes deceive me? Did a kick from Boswell somehow go through the uprights? Do I dare believe Or will they break my heart again? Wait, hold on. Yes, they will, because this is New England and they'll pull a victory out of their ass like last year. Just you watch. They'll keep missing passes.
Give him time. And again.
I feel like I'm dreaming.
First down yardage at the 6. Here's Brady down the middle. And it's knocked down, incomplete.
Oh my god. They beat New England. They beat New England. They beat the Patriots. Holy shit, they did it. They beat New England. They beat New England. They did it. They fucking beat New England. They did it. They did it. They beat New England. Yeah! Oh my god, I did it. They beat fucking New England. They took out the fucking Patriots. Yeah! It finally happened. The Steelers defeated New England. The Black and Gold Brigade still control their own destiny. Despite this cathartic victory, it states more about the Patriots than it does about Pittsburgh. New England is significantly weaker than in seasons past. They cannot play on the road. Their offensive line, in particular, sloppy and undisciplined. The dragon may be slain, but there are far steeper mountains to climb. There are many questions that still need to be answered about the Black and Gold Brigade. They have staved off irrelevance for now, but they will face a greater challenge in New Orleans next week. This will be the true test. Even though the season is incomplete, at least for a moment, the Yinzer faithful can hold their heads high again. They have finally beaten New England. Like sweet coleslaw flowing off a Permani's sandwich, so are the days of our Steelers. Throughout this video, you may notice that there are live shots of this game in all of its cell phone captured glory. This personalized live action footage was brought about thanks to the fine folks at SeatGeek. As an effort to bring a new perspective to the experience, the company brought about this random Yinzer to experience the wonders of Bourbon Street. Taking in such a game in a hostile environment for the sake of this program is something that I cannot resist. For this opportunity, they cannot be thanked enough. And for further goodies, use the code word TREE in the link below to save $20 off of your first purchase. For now, we begin our feature presentation. This week, on Days of Our Steelers, an exorcism of demons leads to their greatest test yet. Despite the win against their old foe in New England, the Black and Gold Brigade has no time to celebrate. There are greater battles to fight in the name of Lombardi. An NFL insider stated on a public forum that Captain Fatfuck suffered cracked ribs in the defeat against Oakland. As a great leader of men, he dismisses these allegations as fake news. A man of Ian Rappaport's stature is to be questioned, regardless of sources feeding him this information. Roethlisberger also came in the line of fire of one of his opponents. Cameron Jordan went on a relentless trolling brigade leading up to the game against the Saints. He states that Captain Fatfuck is neither a top 5 QB in his generation nor a Hall of Famer, even twisting the knife saying that Eli Manning is a better quarterback. Seriously? Eli? Come on, man, now you're just fucking with us. We merely await Ben throwing for 400 yards as a result of provoking the Hornet's nest. Due to the critical nature of this next football game, we have sent a corresponding Yinzer live to the scene of the action. Let's give him a few words.
Let's just put it this way, this is of the utmost importance for the Steelers. Ravens won, Titans won. You can't trust the derp, who knows if the Colts are gonna win or not, but let's just put it this way. There's only one word that the Steelers need to do today. And you know what that word is? Win. It's gonna be a goddamn battle.
For the record, yes, Indianapolis also succeeded in coming back against the Derp. As all three teams the Steelers are competing with for the postseason won, this game has now become must-win. If they cannot succeed, there may not be another chance for them to. Pittsburgh is entering hell, a raucous environment where the only sounds are fans hungry for the blood of their enemies. New Orleans seeks home field advantage in the NFC with this game. With Yinzer Vision on hand to witness the carnage, the battles will be fierce and tightly contested.
This requires less cheesy deep voice and more of a serious tone. This matchup of talents begins in fury with deep shots and blows traded alike. Thank Sean Davis for not headhunting his own interception and giving life to the team. As Boswell proceeds to make another field goal, the battle continues with some of the most heinous fucking ref ball I've ever seen. How in God's name is that pass interference? And on a 4th and 1? You trying to make the Yinzers justified in their bitching?
I think we can call that ref ball.
My point exactly. Now New Orleans can just waltz into the end zone. They don't need any more help. The Steelers are already beating themselves with regularity. Despite Boswell making another field goal, the Saints once again march in for another 7 points. The Black and Gold Brigade needs to buckle down immediately. They answer the call. The Steelers may be masters at playing down to their competition, but they also have the uncanny ability of playing up to great challenges as well. It's one of the more frustrating aspects of this team over the past 15 years. As Captain Fatfuck needs to make Cam Jordan eat shit, he strikes daggers to AB and Juju. The Saints' Achilles heel is exposed. They cannot stop the Steelers' high-end passing attack. Eli Apple is still as shit as he was with the Giants. A touchdown is scored, and a 2-point conversion brings this game back to a deadlock. Even as the Saints storm back for a field goal before halftime, there is hope in Yinzerland.
Give you a little update, 17-14 Saints. I mean, that's how I figured exactly what it would be. The Steelers are really close, very tight game, a lot of competition. I mean, I'm nervous as hell. Not gonna lie, the inner Yinzer in me is not doing too hot, but I mean, it's a great game of football. Well, except for the horrible pass interference. Thanks, ref ball.
The Steelers can do this. They are playing with a fire and heart worthy of champions. This thinking is halted as the Bayou Fever storms throughout Bourbon Street with hand grenades and hurricanes in hand. They shred the defense with efficiency. The only way to keep up with this kind of outfit is through high-octane aggressiveness. Think of an 80-yard drive with no signs of stopping this runaway train. Even the defense is making Drew Brees' life a living hell. The Steelers can smell their fear. Captain Fatfuck is throwing dimes as Pittsburgh takes the lead, not to mention another 3 and out. The Black and Gold Brigade is doing the unthinkable, marching the Saints out of their own building. Literally nothing they do can stop them.
It's Ridley. Nowhere.
Pittsburgh does that well enough on their own. A chance to solidify the lead and you give the ball to fucking Ridley. What sense does that make? Now New Orleans can get back into this shit.
This is 50 on the nose.
Holy shit, the special teams did a thing.
Yes! That's it! That's fucking it, baby! Let's go!
Every Yinzer and fleur-de-lis donner alike is clenching their anuses at what could be their team's fate. As New Orleans finally slows down the offensive train, they punt the ball back.
NFC Championship game. Oh, they run the fake! The fake is short!
Or they trust the fullback to get 5 yards. And decided to imitate the Titans. I agree with the idea of a fake, I just didn't like the execution. Why not throw out your best weapons when they haven't been able to stop them? Now the Saints have the pigskin in prime territory. The defense does its job to force a 4th down. Do it, Steelers. Make this Yinzer heart kindle with flame. And of course, the Steelers get in their own way yet again. Despite New Orleans' effort to hand the game away, the Steel Curtain bent to give up a fucking 3rd and 20. And then gave up a touchdown to relinquish the hard-earned lead.
Okay, here's the idea. You still have minute 25 left. No timeouts, but you have 3. If you still can do the offense like they've been doing, I think I don't know if it'll win, but
this drive could be the difference between the postseason and a bitter end. 85 seconds to fulfill their destiny or face agony.
4th and 15. Here I come to save the day.
You know, AB may be a metastasizing cancer growing by the day, but holy shit can he catch a football. High-end talent is going to be the key for this win. The Steelers will push onward towards their glorious fate. Dagger to the heart. Their reliance on talent backfired horrifically. God save the Yinzers. A great battle and teasing of a stunning victory only brought about horrible, agonizing pain. The Steelers had failed in one of the most brutal ways imaginable. By their own doing. The Saints secure the #1 seed in the NFC as they have another statement win to their season. As for Pittsburgh, lamentation. The Black and Gold Brigade has failed in their quest for victory. It's nothing against the team, they played with heart, hunger, and intensity. The Steelers played a solid game. Unfortunately, solid isn't good enough in the Superdome. It required perfection. They weren't. As they have shot themselves repeatedly, Pittsburgh now stares death in the face. They no longer control their own destiny. Baltimore now holds serve in the AFC North, and the Colts and Titans fight each other for the 6th seed. Some may argue that ref ball was the major factor in this loss, but the team still had plenty of chances to put this game away. They were unsuccessful in their efforts by means of questionable play calling and New Orleans' own abilities. The better team won this game. There should be no shame, but it's a potential death blow to the season. Do you know what would have eased the sting of this loss? Not losing to the fucking Raiders. Or pissing away countless opportunities against the Broncos. Or blowing a 16-point lead against a Chargers team dead to rights. Any of those reversed and you wouldn't have to rely on pulling off the near impossible. This season is Rosie Nick celebrating a first down, when they aren't anywhere near it. The Steelers have no one to blame but themselves for this predicament. As for Week 17, the Yinzer faithful must sleep with an enemy to slay a greater one. They must become Browns fans. Cleveland is, ironically, the only hope for a Steeler entry into the great grind of January. That's also not considering their opponent in the Bengals. They may be beaten into the mud, but as Oakland can attest, you can never take any team lightly, especially with this much on the line. As the fears of the Three Rivers meet in hell, so are the days of our Steelers.
Ball comes out. Smith-Schuster coughed it up.
This week, on Days of Our Steelers, a devastating loss leaves the team on the outside looking in for the first time this season. After his fumble against the Saints, Juju Smith-Schuster did something many Steelers haven't done this year. Took responsibility for his actions. He personally apologized for the fumble, even if it wasn't the main reason they lost, and vowed for it to never happen again. It's honestly a breath of fresh air. Somebody should quash it as it doesn't involve drama. The same can't be said for defensive coordinator Keith Butler, whose performance has been highly suspect. He stated that he's worried about a certain target who will garner a lot of attention in the next game, Tyler Eifert. For the record, Tyler Eifert has a broken ankle and cannot physically run at this time. Sadly, he's probably right. They couldn't cover a geriatric in Antonio Gates, so they'll need at least 3 linebackers on him at all times. This next game is against a Bungles team injured to hell and back, but the Black and Gold Brigade are suffering some as well. First, the much-maligned kicker Chris Boswell vanished to IR for reasons of discomfort. They must now rely on a kicker that hasn't kicked a field goal longer than 45 yards at the NFL level. Including injuries to Vince Williams and Sean Davis, the next one is a big blow to their ambitions. The Diva. He hadn't practiced all week due to knee issues and will be unable to play in this crucial game. Wait, AB had a knee injury? This doesn't make sense. Despite the blows to team depth, the Steelers come out with purpose and once again embarrassingly play down to their competition. Are you fucking kidding me with this shit? You know damn well you have to win to stay alive in the playoff hunt, yet this is the most uninspired I've seen this team all year. Are you guys too busy openly cheering on the Browns to give a fuck? Apparently you are, as Captain Fatfuck threw another pick and gave the Bungles the lead on a pick 6. How wonderful, you're losing to a team you were favored by 15 to beat. It's quite obvious these guys had checked out. They had to be deflated after the loss to New Orleans. It's the only explanation I've got. But everything's okay. They kicked a fucking field goal before halftime. What great progress against a team that's fucking dead. At this rate, it doesn't matter if they win. They don't deserve the postseason with such an uninspired performance. This was their chance to prove something to me, and they sure as hell didn't. This can't be all related to the Diva. In no way does the offense look this damn flat against a team with a defense close to an SEC outfit. I kind of feel they were too busy worrying about games other than their own. Doesn't matter in the long run, as the Black and Gold Brigade did the bare minimum to win thanks to their new kicker Matt McCrane having a pretty solid day. Well done, boys! You beat the Bungles! A team that would probably be beaten by Alabama handily with how battered they are. I should bring you guys home and let you fuck my sister. Now they must sit and wait for Cleveland to do their part. The scene in Pittsburgh is something out of the Twilight Zone. Nobody's left the stadium. Steelers fans cheering for the Browns. The team readying AFC North shirts for their triumphant victory. Cleveland is marching down the field. By God, it's destiny.
A 4th and 10. And here they come. Mayfield's pass. It's intercepted by Mosley.
To declare the season over. Do you hear that? That's the sound of a collapse in slow motion. I knew this team had severe flaws, but never in my wildest dreams did I think they would miss the playoffs. Honestly, it's completely fucking deserved. The way the Steelers went about this season was nauseating at best and malignant at its worst. Days of our Steelers? Does that sound like a healthy organization to you? The fact that I got fresh material every fucking week for this goddamn show is a testament to the year. Self-inflicted ineptitude. That knee injury AB had? Turns out he was bitching up a storm and getting into arguments with Ben. Once again skipping practices and being such a cancer that he was benched from the game. Yep, that's it. It's quite obvious that they didn't learn from last year's embarrassing loss in the playoffs, so it's time for me to go harder. If you'll excuse me, I need to grind my axe. Captain Fatfuck, the glorious leader of men. If you couldn't tell, I despise this man. It's a shame that a quarterback of that ability is such an unlikable piece of shit that the world wants nothing more than to see him fail. This is far from an old grudge or vendetta about his past for one simple reason. He hasn't changed one fucking bit. He's still the petty, self-serving asswipe that he was when he was one of the more infamous people in the North Hills bar scene. Look at the way he criticizes others publicly for shit that's partially his own goddamn fault, failing to take any sort of responsibility for his actions. It's the thing that I can't stand about him, the one thing that grinds me to my very core. It's always about you. It's the reason why the offensive coordinator got replaced with your puppet. It's why the Steelers do nothing but throw the goddamn ball. It's why nobody will admit the reality that Captain Fatfuck is becoming more of a liability to the team with his antics and boneheaded turnovers. You're not a goddamn leader. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. Now we get to deal with more limbo as you play Brett Favre and bitch about rookies they may draft. I'd wish something bad would happen, but I won't. The CTE will take you down by the time you're 60. Let me share with you a fun fact about Le'Veon Bell. When he was selected by the Steelers, Bell was considered to be a character pick. Somebody really fucked up with that assessment. In what way is Bell showing character? All of those cringe-inducing rap tracks? No showing practice before a playoff game? Liking Steelers losses on Instagram? Whining like a little bitch because he was going to make more than most of us will make in our entire lives? Way to piss away $14.5 million, Le'Veon. I sincerely, in my heart of hearts, hope this stunt you pulled blows up in your face spectacularly. Who's going to want a dispassionate fuck who cares more for jet skis in Miami and slapping asses at strip clubs than the team he plays for? You're a petulant fucking child. You're a goddamn headache that had the stats you had because you were behind one of the best O-lines in football. And then you got an insatiable ego and decided to bitch out because of a non-existent market for your services. Don't worry, Bell. Somebody's going to pay you for the brand. And they're going to immediately regret it. AB. The diva needs his feathers clipped and fast. The man may be an incredible talent, but the only thing growing besides his stat line are the malignant traits of his personality. We saw it in week 2 when you were flipping out on Ben's puppet for not getting you the ball enough. We saw it when you threatened to break a reporter's jaw for not sucking your dick in an article. We saw it when you no-showed practice and told someone sarcastically to trade you. I physically cannot cheer for this guy. I know the catches are amazing, but I keep thinking back to when he chucked furniture out of a 14th floor balcony and another bitch fit. Always pouting, always whining to get the ball. That shit you pulled this past weekend, that's just icing on the cake. This fucker is so egotistical that Narcissus is shaking his head in disgust. This man has become toxic and the Steelers have chosen to swim in it. You want a Madden curse? Here it is. Endless stats, but nothing that really matters. Whining can't get you rings. Divas rarely win them, and AB is running straight towards it. Thanks for vindicating my claims. For a year and a half. I swear to the holiest of deities, if you fuckers corrupt Juju and turn him into an abominable monster, I will hunt every one of you down and kill you in your sleep. I'm tired of talking about Mike Tomlin. It's the same goddamn shit every fucking year with this guy. Horrible clock management, the painfully cliched press conferences, the lack of controlling the insatiable egos on the team, his pathetic play call challenges, the inability to hold people accountable for their actions, hideously playing down to vastly inferior competition on nearly every fucking occasion. Once again, when it happens repeatedly, it's not a fluke, that's what we call a trend. Players and coordinators keep changing. What hasn't? The head coach. I used to think the calls for his head were ridiculous, but this season proved how incompetent he truly is. Look at the excuses he brought up. A fucking x-ray machine? That's your excuse for leaving one of your best weapons on the sideline? No big deal, they just need to raid Le'Veon's locker. It's therapeutic, and nothing will be done because that's how most fucking locker rooms act. Keep pretending you have the high road and ignore the drama. It's really doing this team some good. This is a goddamn circus and Mike is the ringmaster. The standard is the standard, you know. The time has come for heads to roll and it needs to start with Tomlin. But that's just a pipe dream. After all, Joey Porter is still here. Fichtner, I'm not going to waste my time. That dude's a yes man for Big Ben. Keith Butler is the reason why I'm starting to believe loyalty is a terrible trait to have in an organization. So many goddamn years marinating, and all this guy knows are fucking linebackers. Hell, he has them covering the best wideouts on the other team. He can't design schemes. He can't fit to the D's strengths. He thinks players who can't physically run are a threat to the defense. This dude is taking the piss. He's way over his goddamn head. Makes sense how he was only a linebackers coach for every year except one before the Steelers. Wasn't he supposed to be different than LeBeau? All I'm seeing is a watered-down imitation of that defense. Just no. Danny Smith is fucking useless. How many times are the Steelers going to be penalized on opening kickoffs? Wait, hold on. The main strategy to block field goals is to keep going offsides on them. Whenever I look at the Steelers and everything leaking out of the locker room, what I see is an organization infested with cancer. And you know what you do when you find cancer? You cut it out. For far too long, they have let cancer become malignant and metastasize throughout its entire mass. It finally caught up to them this year. From going 7-2-1 and a 97% chance at the playoffs to completely missing them is total incompetence. With this level of talent on the roster, two of the best receivers in the game, the best offensive line in football, a defensive line full of playmakers, and minimal injuries, and you can't even sniff the postseason, that's catastrophic failure. You just can't keep kicking the can down the road with this kind of team. The way things have been done haven't fucking worked. This extreme situation requires extreme measures. Wholesale purge. Any sort of tumor in this organization needs to go, and now. Tomlin, Feetner, Butler, Danny Smith, Joey Porter, Bud Dupree, fucking Bintz, Le'Veon, the cancer known as AB, they all needed to fuck off yesterday. Even Ben needs to be considered for removal. Do you really want that kind of baggage with an aging body? Some healthy tissue is removed so they make sure the cancer is gone. The shit that's being pulled can no longer fucking fly. There's this one word that's paramount. Accountability. It's critical in every other business, and let's face it, the Steelers are a business. A failing one. Even if you think I'm crazy for this, there's no need to worry. Nothing will change. The Steelers will keep course with the same shit next year and the year after that. Artie II will bring in some old faces from the 70s with some thinly veiled speech about family and the Steeler way. Pittsburgh doesn't fire coaches. They retire or have their contracts conveniently expire. After all, they beat New England. That's a sign things are on the up and up. There's only one quote that summarizes this team.
Remember, the saddest thing in life is wasted talent. You could have all the talent in the world, but if you don't do the right thing, then nothing happens. But when you do right, guess what? Good things happen.
At the end of the day, that's all this team is. A waste. And it will continue in perpetuity at this rate. Nothing has shown me that they want to change. With the actions shown, I see nothing but arrogance and the inability to even take a shred of criticism. What they can't block is that they have no one to blame but themselves for the predicament they're in. They're becoming more and more of a joke as time passes. And it's going to continue because of stubbornness. See you next year.
What the hell do you mean we're not done?
What the fuck?!